Welcome, everyone. It's the Mike Tech Show, show number 909. Tonight, going to talk about Windows S mode and what I ran into this week. Have an email on new PC questions. Have an email on the iPhone that we're going to talk about and give some assistance to Taz. And then old time radio. But before we do any of that, I have to talk about today. And I have a client near Fort Lauderdale, about 20 minutes away from Uncle Marv. And Marvin B from MB Systems, a huge, huge shout out and thank you for his extremely busy schedule. And he squeezed me in to visit my client. And he was on site and I was remote. Got a call. Their phone systems were down. They could not receive an inbound call and they couldn't make a call, yet they got a dial tone. And I tried to call and boy, it was ugly. So here's what I figured, let's reboot the system. But there's a couple employees that are there that they're not capable of rebooting the hardware that's in the server room area. They have a real server. They have a PBX. They have an Allworks phone system. And I figured, let's reboot it. At worst, Marv can reboot everything and get it to work. He tracked everything down, rebooted all the components. The phones were getting an IP address and registering and getting the dial tone. They just couldn't get outbound. So I inherited this client and I started looking through some notes that I had a long time ago. And there's a company, SIP Trunk, that provides the VoIP SIP trunks. And I called their tech support and lo and behold, they had a gateway outage. So I had to wait until I was able to let Marv go. And I had to wait. It was probably like another hour or two. And their gateway, they got it up and running and everything was fine. But a couple lessons there. Their old IT support was the primary login for the SIP Trunk portal. So one of the things I had to do is gain access to the portal. That was not easy. But we had to make sure that I could get in there. And I've also subscribed to the status that they have for an email alert that if there was ever a problem, I would get notified via email, because who got notified was their old tech support. So I got a lot of things squared away, and I am very, very happy that my client got up and running. And again, Marv, thank you so much for squeezing me in, because he has an extremely busy schedule. And as a matter of fact, we're not going to get together, but he's heading to Tampa this afternoon. He's probably already here and working with, he has clients in the area, and then he heads back, and then he's traveling again to Orlando, where I'm flying out on Sunday morning back to Philadelphia. And that's why tonight's show is my last show for 4 months from Florida. And boy, it's starting to get hot down here. So looking forward to getting back with everybody. I've already got client appointments next week lined up. So it's great. All good. I had to share that story about the phone outage. Got another yesterday. The server was running out of space on the data side. Now, I always have to worry about the C drive on a server because there's always log files and things you have to babysit and make sure to provide the care and feeding of a C drive on a server, So I'm always worried about that on some of the older servers. But this one caught me off guard, and I Synchro can't run on that, or I would have gotten an alert, because I know there's listeners that are like, don't you have monitoring on that? Well, not on this particular server. So they have a ton of data files. And I found, since this was an old Exchange server that we retired the Exchange software piece on the server, and I moved them to Exchange hosted in the cloud with SureWeb years ago, there was a drive allocated for log files for Exchange, 300 gig, perfect. So I spent last night and part of yesterday afternoon moving client directories over to the drive that had the space, just to free up room so they could operate. And what I'm thinking now, to balance things out, since all of their client folders are like, in alphabetical order, I'm thinking on the one drive, have like A to L, and then move M to Z on the other drive, and have, the two separate shares, so everybody can get to it. And this is a CPA firm. So that's why there was a lot of clients that they're not dealing with that had a lot of files in there. So like there was one client that had 6,000 files in the directory. So anyway, just one of those annoying little things that you have to do when you're still you're still managing servers. And I still have a couple that I on a list to get rid of, but actually their server we're going to have to upgrade. We're not going to be able to get rid of it because there's too much SQL Server software and things that have to run on a real server. So I got no choice. Now, interesting, a dentist has outgrown his office. And I remember setting him up from the very beginning, and it's just exploding. He can't fit any more systems. And now we have one of their vendors requiring virtual systems on their server. Here's the problem. They don't have a real server. It's a peer server, and they've outgrown that. But the reason we're not doing anything yet is he finally purchased a new place that's being built out as we speak, and I can't wait. One of the things when I get back, I want to go on a walkthrough and get our cabling guy. Then we're going to spec out a really big server, and that's to have their software hosted. They're an EagleSoft client. So now let's get to tonight's topics. So wanted to do some in the trenches. So now I want to, let's display. There we go. And all right. So my handyman electrician is going to be doing a lot of work off and on while I'm away. As a matter of fact, he has a shelf to put up. There's some electrical problem in the dining room. There's some things on the front window that he needs to fix. There's stuff in the back bathroom I want him to redo. There's a nice long list of things. So one of the things he asked me was, hey, I got a new laptop. Can I bring that? I need some help. So he had an old version of AutoCAD he wanted installed. I wanted to, do 9-night and run, get Chrome because he just had Edge, and 7-zip, get Malwarebytes on there. It wouldn't run. It would not run. And I was like, that's weird. Why what's blocking the software from running? And I couldn't uninstall things. So, the first link is, how do you allow software installation from any source on Windows 10 and Windows 11. So the first screen that I'm putting up here is the app you're trying to install isn't a Microsoft verified app. So get apps from the store. Well, no, I have an executable I want to run. And then I have his AutoCAD files on a USB, to do the install. Well, I find out that first I go where you're supposed to find out the option for advanced in apps and then choose where to get apps. Well, that was missing. So now I look, okay, the choose where to get apps from feature is missing from Windows 11. What does that mean? Where is it? Well, the answer is that means you are Windows S. And I haven't dealt with Windows S in a long time. So one of the links, another link for tonight is how to do it. And it is very easy. And Windows 11 in S mode is designed for security and performance. It makes it where you can't run anything really except from the Microsoft Store. And I hate it. I get it. I understand why it exists. It's just I do not like it. So you a comment in the chat I'm laughing at. So once I got it flipped to Windows 11 Home, life was good. I was able to uninstall the trial Office because I had an older version of Office I was giving them. And then I was able to get 7-Zip and VLC and Chrome. I got everything installed. His AutoCAD installed perfectly. And it was AutoCAD 2000. I was worried whether it was going to work in Windows 11 or not. Well, it did. And I was like, that it was very, very cool. So anyway, I got Malwarebytes and got it activated. So the three links, the first three links for tonight is the process literally that I went through today. Not today. Actually, not yesterday. I'm thinking Tuesday. It was Tuesday and Wednesday I worked on the system, and then he came by today to pick it up, and that was awesome. So he was happy, and I was glad to help him because he's always helping me, and I'm glad. Now, there's a chat going on in the chat is a discussion about S. You know what I recommend? A Chromebook. I would rather someone get a Chromebook than Windows S because Windows S is so limiting. It's, you might as well get a Chromebook and save a ton of money. And that would make sense where they just live on a browser, to be able to get their email and surf the web. And it's amazing what you can do with a Chromebook. I mean, I pushed it really hard in 2017. Do you remember when traveling international, they were thinking of not allowing laptops to go onto an airplane? And this was right when I was heading to Germany with my middle son to go to a music festival. And that was June in 2017. And I was worried, well, boy, I want to be able to get, in case I have to remote into somebody. So I put the remote software, Chrome Remote, and had that running on my system at home, and then installed that extension on a Chromebook. So this way, if for some reason they were taking the Chromebook, I was like, heck, let me reset it. Here, keep it. I don't need it. It's a throwaway. And I was able to remote into my desktop and then launch Instant House Call, everything that I needed to run to be able to work. And knock wood, there wasn't that many, to be able to There wasn't that many days where I had to remote in. And, we were at a 3-day music festival that was day and night that just wiped us out. And, 100,000 people in the middle of Schesel, Germany. So, which is, I guess, north of Hamburg, maybe like hour and a half away from Hamburg. Now, let's get to some emails. And the first email, is for a friend of mine, Joe, who's a reverse snowbird. He retired. He graduated from Drexel also, and he's a little older than me. And he was already down here. As a matter of fact, we went to some Phillies games together down here. And then he's went back, him and his wife. And he always mentions in the email, he's a reverse snowbird. So here's the email that I want to address. I just started looking for a new desktop since Windows 10 will be losing support in the next several months. Which, by the way, it's October 2025. So that's what you have till. I started looking online on Amazon, and essentially every Windows 11 desktop they are selling now comes with an SSD drive, not a conventional hard drive. I'm going to stop right there. I am so glad. I want them to uninvent the mechanical drive. Never, ever, 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 ever use a mechanical drive. So, Joe, it absolutely, an SSD is 100 times faster than a mechanical drive. We spend lots of time taking a system that has a mechanical drive and cloning it to an SSD. So he continues, has the technology with regards to SSDs improved dramatically? Yes, yes, yes. Since the days when they were not highly recommended for traditional PC usage, they absolutely are. You can write to them till the cows come home, not a problem. He goes, what should be a typical household desktop be equipped with? My recommendation is not the latest generation CPU, but go back 1 or 2 generations, a Core i5 or a Core i7. 16 gigs of RAM minimum. Today, I had to order 2 laptops for 2 financial advisors that I got 64 gigs of RAM on the laptops. So 16 gig minimum, an SSD of no less than 512 gig. So, and I recommend, even though it's home, try to get Windows 11 Pro. So Windows 11 Pro, Core i5 or Core i7, that's current technology. That's, right now we're 14th generation. So, a 12th or 13th generation CPU would be fine. 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig SSD, or you'll see the letters NVMe, which is a chip on the motherboard, which is perfect. And I'll tell you now, I'm starting to see 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte NVMEs included with new systems. So, Joe, you should be on your way. And please, before you purchase, if you want to send me an email and let me just go over the specs before you pull the trigger, glad to do it. And I'm heading back north if you want to connect up when I'm back. So, all right. Next email from our moderator, Mr. Mike. He got an iPhone 15 Pro. That is exactly what I have. And you said something about setup when you got yours. Yeah, I took the time, and I'm going to do it again tonight. I think it had to do with MFA, tips for swapping from an iPhone 12. Thanks. he went from a 12 to a 15 Pro, which is exactly, did I have a 13? I'm not sure. I think maybe it was a 12. But I went to a 15 Pro. And there's a few things, and some of it, Taz, you might have already experienced. Apple has a great built-in transfer. So the first thing you have to do before you even consider upgrading your iPhone to another iPhone, back up to the cloud. If you have to buy additional storage from Apple, which they do all the time, you may have to pay that $5 a month, but make sure you have an iCloud backup. So it's very easy to set. You can Google it to figure out, and it probably already is, but just make sure, just as a safety precaution, this is where your photos, everything, settings, your apps, all backed up. Second, make sure you have all your email passwords and any websites, because sometimes you're going to run into a problem where you're not going to remember where it's already saved. So make sure you have that. Now, when you do the transfer, here's the thing. Your phone will overheat. It will get extremely hot because a lot's going on. I have like 70 apps that are installing and updating, and it's just horrible. Your phone, it was just so hot after the transfer that it's really unusable for the rest of the night. And I would sit it down, let it finish, and then start checking everything. There's very, very little from a tip standpoint, except for my warnings was making sure that you have your settings recorded, because now you're going to have new settings and you might as well learn what they are. I would go to macrumors.com, take a look for tips for the iPhone 15 Pro, and you're going to get even more settings and things to try. Now, my experience when I was talking about it, and this was, and Taz, this is what you might have thought. My wife went from a non-iPhone to an iPhone, and it was a nightmare. The transfer program kept getting stuck. And so we had to bring her original phone. They held the new phone as hostage. I brought that back to do a manual transfer of all of her pictures and videos, because that's all she cared about. And then I logged into Gmail, and I seen that she had all of her contacts. And I was like, oh, great. I'll be able to just import that into the phone when we got the new phone. So the next day we went back. Actually, I think we went back that night and got her new phone. And then I put just some pictures that she wanted, and mainly the contacts. And then she had to make sure she had all of her apps. So that's the big thing. It's the apps and the login. Like, I fly American Airlines, so I got to have my AA app. I also I'm always monitoring, because my family flies Frontier when they come to visit. So I have and Southwest. So, there's multiple airlines I'm always tracking, so I got to have the proper app. And as I look at my phone, now with multi-factor authentication, you just go through the settings. You don't have any, there's no real issue there. From an app standpoint, I have hurricane apps, especially for being down here, to track the wind and the hurricanes. I have my car. I have a Toyota app because of my Highlander. Let's see. A couple news apps. I don't use the apps as much as I thought I would. I'll tell you one that I had to use this week: Square. That's how I take my credit cards. Weather Channel. Let's see, Cash App. I have, because I had a, what did I have to do? There was something I had to purchase where I had to use Bitcoin, and so that's a long story. I might have talked about that. Let's see. Uh, Disney World app for when you go to Disney, you got to have that. Um, oh, my Shark app to control my Shark robot for cleaning the house. So RoboForm. Oh yeah. And Taz mentioned that. Thank you, Taz, for reminding me. That's an idea. Before you transfer to a new phone, get a password manager and then make sure that you got all your key passwords in and get that all synced up and ready to roll. That'll save you on a new phone. So that'll make life easy. So, I mean, there's no real mystery if you're going from iPhone to iPhone. It's really, if you're going from Android to iPhone or iPhone to Android, that's where it gets complicated. And then you got to, put your faith in whatever app in that Android app that you're trying to transfer using that. And that was a problem. That was a big problem. Actually, two times. My wife went from an iPhone to the one T one touch something phone, and that was difficult. Then she had that for a few years, and then went back to iPhone. Now, one of the things that I recommend, if you're getting an iPhone, get the Pro. The Pro has much better specs. Then they have the Pro Max, which is big. And to me, that was too big. They were out of the Maxes when my wife and I upgraded phones. And that is the only disappointment. She would like a much bigger phone where I don't. I mean, I have my iPad. I don't need a tablet, and the phone's too big, the Max. So I was very happy with my iPhone Pro. Knock wood. I haven't had any issues. Now that I say that tonight, it'll blow up or something. But just, I would say, take a look at some sites, Mac Rumors, maybe take a look at Apple, see if there's any warnings, if there's any issues really about the latest OS for it, where there's always bugs and then they always bring a .1 or a .2. All right. So that was for the phone. Now let's go to the last email, and this is from Kate, and this is going to launch a discussion. All right. She wanted to reach out with something here, and the subject was when worlds collide. Something most people don't know about me is that I am a giant fan of old time radio detective fiction. I'm old enough to remember listening to yours truly, Johnny Dollar, on the radio. I have never heard of Johnny Dollar. She continues, but in my adulthood, I've gotten to hear that Sam Spade, Philip Marlowe, and Richard Diamond radio shows. And I've listened to some of them, and others. I subscribe to a couple of old-time radio detective podcasts to feed the addiction. Recently, the character of Johnny Dollar passed into the public domain, and someone has re-imaged him as a detective fighting cyber crime. Going to pause. Someone who's supposed to be talking to my son. Hold on. Jane just called me. I am on the air. Okay. I think Jane, oh, sorry, my client called the wrong cell phone number. All right. So I just texted my son. I can't tell you how happy this makes me. There are currently 3 comics available digitally and in print, with a 4th one coming. I'm proud to say I've supported these people on Kickstarter and have the digital and print editions of the first 3. The 4th will come sometime this month, probably. People interested in checking out these wonderful comic books and digital downloads can go here, which is just johnnydollar.io, which I'm going to show. The folks at Green Archer Comics have done an incredible job, both with the art and the story. Kate, when I was reading that, you brought back memories for me, talking about, here's the Johnny Dollar, and I have the link. You brought back memories of Sherlock Holmes for me, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The comics, I was never a comic book kid. Growing up, my friends, we just weren't into comic books. I played baseball and hockey, and then occasionally football, but it was baseball and hockey, and that's all I did. And then here, I'll give away a little bit something, and because even in the summer, I had to serve weddings and funerals, but I was an altar boy. I grew up in a parish in Philadelphia where I was across the street, literally, from the rectory and the convent and the church. So it just couldn't help. But so that was more of what I was kind of into, but it was mainly sports. And so no comic books. And it's so interesting that you brought this up, especially the old time radio. This is a great link that's going to be in the show notes. I have another link, which is oldradioworld.com. And this is where you can listen to the radio adventures of Sherlock Holmes. There are 103 MP3 downloads available. Now, this Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson is my favorite. It is Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes and Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson. And together they did 220 episodes, which aired weekly on Mondays from 8:30 to 9 p.m. And you're going to love when you listen, the ads, and it's, bromoquinine and Parker Pen and the Petri wine. I'll never forget. So that was kind of a cool thing. Let's pick up something. They started in the late 30s and go into the 40s. The Copper Beeches.
Careful fireless study of the famous Dr. Watson, who's relating his delightful Sherlock Holmes adventure. Good evening, Doctor. You look a bit irritated, if you will pardon my saying.
Good evening, Mr. Marion. Good evening. Yes, I am a bit annoyed, and with good reason. I don't know if I've told you that Holmes has been listening in to these reminiscences. Well, here's a letter.
So here's what they would do. It would set up where the sponsor would visit Dr. Watson, and Dr. Watson would look back and reflect on a story with him and Sherlock Holmes, and then they would get into acting it out, which was great. I have listened to every one of these. And then another what I'd like to mention is they actually did 12 movies together where you can obtain them. And if you are on Amazon Prime, I want you to search for Sherlock Holmes and take a look at like the Woman in Green. There's look for, search on Basil Rathbone and take a look, and hey, let me know. You're going to find that they are, I just love this version of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. So, Kate, thank you for kind of bringing that up. And it just made me think of all of the old time radio and how I would listen to them. They would be rebroadcast. I remember them being rebroadcast on a channel that no longer exists, WCAU AM, and on Saturday nights they would broadcast, and I would listen to them. They would kind of redo, replay some of the old time radio. There's an old time radio channel which you can catch a lot of this good stuff on Sirius XM. So I've listened to the old time radio, and then there's the movies. There was another old TV station called WKBS Channel 48, and also on Saturday nights they would play The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. They would play one of these 12 movies, and they would rotate them. After 12 weeks, you would get the next 12. They would repeat the next 12, and I just fell in love with them. So it's nice to bring back some of the things from your youth, and certainly I am showing my age because I didn't get to hear any of those live. I wasn't around in the 40s, but Drink with Rick. Some of the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes movies are in the public domain as well. Yes, a lot of these things are now available in the public domain, so take a look. You might be able to just download these. And I mean, I've obtained digital versions of all 12 of those movies. I just love it. And what we're going to do, I will grab, let me grab one of the, I know I have a directory here, movies, Sherlock Holmes, and here we go, The House of Fear. This is how they all start. Wow. So I had to just play that a little bit to show you. Every one of those 12 movies starts out the same way. And I was trying to think of the company that took them and remastered them. They got some of the originals, and they totally remastered them and put them on DVD. I actually own them on DVD. All right. Just a little diversion. Got to have some fun. And hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Remember, email me any questions, tips, tricks, things that you want me to talk about. MikeTechShow@gmail.com. Please subscribe to my YouTube videos. I post all these shows up on YouTube at Michael Smith MTS on YouTube, and click subscribe. That's it. Thank you so much. Next week from Pennsylvania, join me Thursday, same time, same channel. Bye-bye, everybody.